One of the main questions I get when I paint something this size and of this detail is how long did that take? And then oftentimes people are like, well, what do you call this style? So hopefully we can answer both of those questions in the making of this video. You see me starting out with a painting from last week, the self-portrait that I did. We're just gonna paint right over that in a kind of a gradient that I'm gonna prepare. I already selected the photo that I'm going to use of the cutest dog in the world. That's my dog, Charlie. It wasn't big enough to determine the placement on the canvas, so I printed out 2 pieces, cut them together, taped them together, and then figured out how I was going to put it on the canvas. And then I taped that to the wall for reference. And then I go in to do the underdrawing. In this case, I'm doing the underdrawing with there's my little buddy. Doing the underdrawing with my paintbrush. This is the photo that I used. I had to crop in tighter, and of course I didn't include the little vest and the foam from his cappuccino all over his mouth, puppuccino, whatever you call it. And here's me realizing this is gonna take longer than I thought. It's tough because this amount of detail in an underdrawing, you know this is gonna take a couple hours. And it did wind up taking about, I don't know, 2.5 hours to complete this. The style, it's the same style that I've been using for a long time on portraits. The same thing on that self-portrait that you saw from last week. It's what I call pop impressionist style. So the impressionists got big around the late 1800s. Cameras were already a thing. They weren't trying to do these photoreal paintings anymore because a camera can do that. We don't need to paint like that anymore. What they were interested in capturing was the moment. So that required fast painting. They were often on site. They were paying for photos like I'm doing here, but they were on site in a cafe or in a park or something like that. They were trying to capture the lighting and the energy and the vibe of what was going on. And they would do this with just slinging wet paint into wet paint, just moving as quickly as possible. And so I call this a pop impressionist style. Pop being that I'm using a way brighter color palette than the impressionists use. Something that leans more towards pop art. I'm also using kind of an outline style that has kind of a cartoon feel to it. So that's another reason I'm calling it pop. And I'll work from photo reference. So the method of working and the actual aesthetic of the way I'm working is the reason I call it pop art in any way at all. I got about 2.5 hours using this pop impressionist style. I'm all over the place trying to just pull in the cuteness that is my little guy here. I had a few reference photos that I was going over, thinking about using. This is ultimately the one I did. I think it was a good choice. It captures just the calm sweetness with still that vibrant energy. Even though he's 15 years old, he still get that vibrance to him. Really taking advantage of being able to change that background and create more of a light source here. The victory dance. Yeah, here we go. You can check out these details. And I'll pull out in just a second so you can see the whole thing. I think my sister's gonna want this painting. I kind of like the idea of just painting over paintings, but that's it for me.